So here we are. Let's have a look at our reverse grid. It's Daniel Cook in P1, John Cox P2, Freak in third, Mike Stoner fourth, Sean Bennett fifth, Trumpet sixth, Colin Ward seventh, Mark Greenhow eighth, Steve Rubins ninth, Spanners 10th, Terra Tyler 11th, Daniel Snortland 12th, Andrew Sixton 13th, James Gill 14th, Tim Ellis 15th, Carl Power 16th, Danny Henney 17th, Luke Power 18th. Rounding off our grid in 19th is Stephen Williams, Alex Smith in 20th, Alex Dobbsberger in 21st, Alexandros in 22nd, Jose in 23rd, Nick Alexander in 24th, and Richard Malden bringing up the rear in 25th. So here we go. Last few cars on the grid. Lights are on. 3, 4, 5. It's green light and away we go, as there's already contact at the back there as we saw a rear wing fly up into the air. Maybe that's just some connection issues, but it did look like that there was a couple of drivers avoiding action at the start of the grid with some very slow starters, but we can see here that the leader has got a very good start here and already has a substantial gap to P2 as they head down the back straight for the first time. That's Daniel Cook and Frick in P2 as we're watching a replay and haven't quite got the angle there of the, and we can see here that drivers are off the circuit. That's Spanners, Andrew Sexton and Stephen Williams, but we can see they're off into the gravel as we watch a replay, and we can see that drivers just ran out of circuit and took avoiding action of some contact that happened up ahead. Of course, the gravel here very sticky and very slow to get back onto circuit. But we can see here Rich Malden under attack from Stephen Williams, who went off there at the start of the circuit. As someone else is off, we have Stephen Rubins and John Cox falling down the pack here as they've gone off at turn 9. It seems this car, of course, is the most powerful of this evening. You have to be careful on the throttle as drivers are finding out very quickly in this race. But it is currently Daniel Cook from Sean Bennett with James Gill making up a number of positions here at the start of the race up into P3. We know that James is strong in this car. He always has a strong end to the night in the Super Formula Series. Tero in P4, Mark Greenhow in P5, and Carl Power and Danny Henney are already in the top 10 up into P6 and P7, taking advantage of those missed fortunes of others at the start of this race, as Danny is looking at overtaking Carl here down the back straight. Doesn't even need to use his push to pass with the toe that he'll probably have. He knows that he can go fairly wheel to wheel with Carl Power, and no, he just bides his time, slots in behind and lets Carl have the position. Still a very long way to go within this race. Alex Smith up into P8 as well, 12 positions gained on that first lap. Really like to see what happened exactly at the start of that race. It seemed that a lot of slow starters and a couple of people lost body parts off of their wings. As Stephen Williams is in the pits, unfortunately, it looks like he's just taken a fast repair. We've lost Alexandros in the pits. Jose Frick, who was also he was in P2 at one point. Maybe I think that was one of the cars we saw at the start. And it looks like Spanners and Andrew Sexton there tangled at the start. So let's have a look at the replay here. We can see that drivers are lining up. Of course, this car is very, very difficult. Can be difficult to start in. Always a bit of a rear wing. I think that was just a bit of a connection issue there. But you can see, guys, some regulars who I am familiar with in the Super Formula Series are used to starting this car. Double clutch procedure can get the benefit of a much better start than others. There was also someone else spun off there at the start, so many others struggling. Spanners down in 15th position, one of those drivers who had to take avoiding action and had a slight tangle. And there's it seems to be Sean Bennett's gone very deep there into the turn 5 hairpin and has to avoid James Gill, who's coming through very quickly into the turn 5 hairpin. Has he been able to hold on to position? Sean has been able to hold on to that position there just about, but that's given Daniel Cook a bit of a breathing space as Sean was catching him. James Gill avoided him thankfully there, but yes, big mistake down into that turn 5 hairpin with Tero Titus not far behind either. Carl Power still ahead of Danny Henney. Those two, I think, just maybe working together as we're only in lap 3 of this 17 lap race as they are closing down the gap on Tero. They won't want to lose. They want to lose as little time as possible. Of course, we've already seen the nature of this circuit does allow those behind who aren't necessarily within the fight to capitalise on those who are fighting up ahead and gain positions. But the drivers fighting wouldn't necessarily expect them to, and that's the sort of position that Smithy is in right behind Danny Henny at the moment. As Danny Henny looks like he's about to get a move on. Haven't seen anyone use their push to pass just yet, but a good exit here would see Danny Henny in the toe, and we can see the roll hoop of the red livery there of Danny Henny with that extra boost to push to pass, easily get past Carl Power here as Carl leaves him the position, and Danny with that extra power, very easy to lock up there, controls the car nicely, and is now able to focus on Tero down into the chicane. Is he going to go side by side? We've seen drivers do this in F3, and Tero potentially very smartly, as he learned from the F3 race, just lets Danny go past, and also lets, he's also let Carl Power go through, and unintentionally let Smithy go through. I don't think he expected his competitor in the gold class to sneak up the inside there. Remember Max Verstappen at Monaco using the faster drivers ahead of him to sneak past the cars that are being lapped? Well, that was kind of what Smithy just used there, I think, on Tero. Tero didn't expect Alex Smith to be so close behind Carl Power and Danny Henny, but that's now freed up Danny. Look at him getting ahead of Carl Power. I do expect Carl to be on the back of him pretty quickly. We'll see how Smithy handles this as well. Is he going to go on the attack of Carl, or is he going to be patient? As there's a spinner in the bow, there's two spinners. A big accident there in the chicane at the last corner. I think that was Alex Dolbersberger and Mark Greenhow in the last corner there. As we can see that I think that's Mark Greenhow just loses control, but that's two separate incidents there. Alex Dolbersberger made a mistake himself by dipping a wheel onto the grass and spun straight into Mark Greenhow, and I think Mark actually would have got away with that mistake and been clear to carry on if it wasn't for the unfortunate Alex Dolbersberger losing it on the grass and driving straight into him. As we predicted at the start of this evening, that last chicane, I think, is going to playing victim to a few drivers in the Super Formula car as Carl goes deep and locks up. That allows Smithy to close in very close to Carl here. Is he going to have a move? It does look like Smithy's push to pass is recharging as it's on a very slow flash. That indicates that he has used it already, but Carl was able to defend from Smithy. So Smithy is definitely wanting to get past Carl with Tero close behind. He wants to put a car between him and his nearest gold class competitor and increase his lead that he has at the top of the gold class standings thus far. Winner of our F3 race this evening as we head through the chicane on board with Carl Power here. And jumping back onto Alex Smith, this is probably a bit more of a better view to see how he handles the dirty air of Carl Power. This car with the more defined and specific aero package that it has compared to F3 and the Formula 4 car, the dirty air is more felt. So we can see there that he doesn't have push to pass turned on. It's still on that 100 second recharge time as Danny Henny closing up the gap on James Gill here. Danny Henny looking for a great performance in the last race. If he gets past James Gill, has he got potential to catch up to Daniel Cook, who is currently 4 seconds ahead? It does seem that James, who is very good in the Super Formula car, much prefers that wider line into turn 9, straightening out the exit to get on throttle earlier than that of the title line, but Danny Henny prefers there. He just seems to be struggling a little bit. This Super Formula car, the tyres are very, very sensitive. A little lock up here and there really does spike the temperatures, and it's very difficult to recover the performance in these tyres. So yes, you're much better to go a little bit slower to maintain the performance in the tyres than you are to go faster and lock up. You can see there that James Gill took quite a lot of curb in that last hairpin, and that's left him even more vulnerable out of the last chicane to Danny Henny here. Danny, probably even without the assistance of DRS, push to pass, might get past James Gill here. We do know James Gill is no slouch though. He will defend this staunchly from Danny Henny. Seems to be gaining. Don't think this is push to pass assisted, and you can see there then braking on the same point. James Gill leaving plenty of room. He has the straighter exit with that wider line, but they're going to go side by side through this treacherous chicane. But we've seen drivers be forced off through here. Are they both going to survive? And they do, as there seems to be a little bit of front wheel contact, a rear wheel contact on Danny Henny's front wing. I think that's pinned back into place. I think that might have been just a slight bit of netcode. And thankfully, Danny Henny's front wing does seem to still be intact. Might have been a 0x there. Very, very respectful from them, and as best as you can expect from both of them to get through that chicane cleanly. But what this has done is he's brought in Carl Power, as we mentioned earlier. Drivers up ahead because of the nature of this circuit with the hairpins and the chicanes. Just a couple of corners side by side. It really does allow those behind who weren't really in the fight to get drawn into it. And we can see here that Carl is now on the back of Danny Henny, where he was looking up ahead and focusing on James Gill. He now has to keep one eye on his rear view mirrors also. Close behind him is Sean Bennett, having to defend from Alex Smith in P6, and Terry Tylers is close behind them also. Luke Power in P8 and Tim Ellis in P9. Luke Power just dropping back a bit, but we can see here that James Gill does have his push to pass turned on. You can see the rear light there flashing, so he is going defensive, but Danny Henny's also using it as well, as we have a round two here down into this hairpin, and it seems to be that Danny Henny has got ahead and cleared him, but James Gill has looked for the cutback. He would have maybe made the move stick, but Danny Henny's also using his push to pass to cancel out the advantage that James Gill would have had there in defence, and Danny Henny gets the move done. Nice and cleanly done up into P2, and he'll now be looking at trying to close down that gap with 9 laps remaining on Daniel Cook, who has a 5.9 second lead, but does have pace in him, the silver class driver. So it'll be a tall order for Danny to catch him at the moment. We'll see if that interval time comes down. But James Gill, while obviously defending from Danny Henny there, now has to focus on not losing another position to Carl Power, who is close behind. Carl looking through this chicane here. How is his exit? Looks to have taken quite a bit of curb. He's 3 attempts back from James. And remember, James Gill used his push to pass last time around. He will be on the recharge. So if Carl has noticed that, he will be able to offset it, use his push to pass, and this should be quite a comfortable overtake for him down into this hairpin. Let's see if that roll hoop is flashing. It is indeed. So Carl Power using the push to pass smartly. He's going to gain, but he didn't quite have enough, as there's a slight little lock up ahead there from Danny Henny into the hairpin. These drivers are very much on the edge when it comes to braking in these cars, but Carl Power there unfortunately not able to make the offset of that push to pass work. The idea was good. You can see there once again difference in line taken through that late apex, but it's turn 9, very similar to Brooklyn's section in Silverstone, where some like to keep it tight, some like to take the wider exit to straighten out, wider entry to straighten out the exit and get on throttle earlier, and that's what James Gill does, but that does leave him vulnerable and leaving a gap on the inside for someone to put their car into. But you can see here that Alex Smith is closing up this gap as he's got up past Sean Bennett. He has been able to close up the gap and is getting on the back of Carl Power. 3 attempts, keeping up that pressure. We'll see how this push to pass is used by both drivers. Are they going to keep it till the end of this race? Up ahead, Danny Henny is closing the gap quite substantially on Daniel Cook here. Danny Henny could be chasing down his second race win of this evening. It'll be a great drive from him in the last race, considering it is a reverse grid. But Carl Power just half a tenth behind James Gill. Seems to be losing just a little bit of time through that last chicane, which is leaving him a little bit outside the range of the toe and the push to pass that is of James Gill. As we head back just a little bit to Terry Tylers, P7, chasing down Sean Bennett, who's doing a great job, the silver class driver. He is defending from the gold class driver of Terry. Lock up there, I think that was from Terry, into that hairpin. As you can see in the rear view there, in the back of your screen, Luke Power looking to capitalise on these drivers, going side by side as Smithy, as Carl was looking to attack James. Smithy looking very comfortable in this car. Off the back of a great performance and a win in the second race, is currently in P5. with his nearest gold class driver, Tero, in 7th. A really good haul of points on offer for him, but keeping the pressure on Carl Power, who will not want to lose a position to him as we head into the last 6 laps remaining of this race. As we do, Danny Henny, 2.5 seconds, 2 seconds now from Daniel Cook. He is eating into that time of the leader, but James Gill doing a good job of holding off Carl Power at the moment, as he has to focus more in his rearview mirrors than he does ahead. Luke Powell with the fastest lap of the race, 1:18.7 from him, as he is closing down that gap to Tero and wanting him to get involved in that fight with Sean Bennett just outside the top 5. We can see they're a little bit further behind with Daniel Snorsland and Richard Morgan are in P10 and P11, as there's a late move there on the brakes by Alex Smith, not able to hold it round the outside. A really big difference in speed there by Alex Smith as he used his push to pass, but wasn't able to get the move done, as Carl Power positioned his car expertly on the inside. Now goes defensive on this, but goes defensive, but also eyeing up the move on James Gill, who goes for that wider line as we've seen so often. But Alex Smith there, not able to stick it round the outside, as we know these cars are very difficult on the throttle, a bit more finesse required than that of the F3 and the F4 car. But look at these 3 nose to tail here with 5 laps. Man, Smithy's lost it. Smithy's lost it on the curb, and unfortunately he's lost a position there to Tero. Hasn't been able to keep the car intact. There was a few cars coming up close behind him. He does seem to get the car going again and is in P8, but that's a real shame for Smithy as he loses the car, just hitting the apex too hard there. We've seen a few drivers lose it there throughout this evening. Oh, and it actually looks like that he just was too aggressive on the turn-in, tried to throw the car into the hairpin and just lost the rear and went round on itself. But you can see here, he's going back on board for this last fight for the podium positions. Carl Power pushed to pass on, James Gill also pushed to pass on, and that's nullified the advantage that Carl would have had on James Gill. If James didn't use it there, he would have been vulnerable to that of Carl Power. So good strategic use of the push to pass for James Gill, but we'll see how much they both have remaining at the end of this race. Carl potentially has a little bit more available to him than that of James Gill, as we see again the difference in the lines there. Carl getting very, very close as that gap starts to close with James Gill taking the wider entry into turn 9. But yeah, James Gill smartly using it. I think Carl may have just a little bit more to use at the end, as James Gill did use some in his defence of Danny Henny. And speaking of Danny Henny, he is 1.3 seconds, 1.2 seconds back from Daniel Cook now. Nearly a second behind the leader, so we'll join that very soon. But Luke Power overtaking Sean Bennett there into P5. Luke Power, a good result for him, and that's after a report showing in the F4 race. Seems to have come into his own in the F3 and the Super Formula, with Sean Bennett just moving back down to P6. But Sean Bennett currently P2 and up 14 positions from his next nearest silver class driver, John Cox, down in 18th. But let's go up ahead with the leaders, I think, as we are on board with Carl Power and James Gill getting very close here. But Danny Henny has now got that gap to below 1 second. He's been chipping away at that gap. We have 3 laps remaining, half a second. It's probably only an amount of time until he gets this done. But Daniel, you would assume, has plenty of push to pass to remain, and Danny Henny has already used some thus far. Daniel Cook in the silver class, it will still be a great performance from him if he finishes in P2, and a great haul of points on his rivals in that category. But of course, he would want the win. He will want the win, and I'm sure he will fight this. Let's see how he gets on, as Danny under half a second now from Daniel, as we go on board with Danny on the roll hoop of him, flat out in this Super Formula car through the first sector. And let's see how much grip Danny has in the dirty air. Another fastest lap from Luke Power. He's really, really loving this Super Formula car. Let's see if he uses any push to pass. Is he close enough to gain? Just loses a little bit of time through that turn 3. And we can see there the roll hoop flashing of Daniel Cook using his push to pass just to stay ahead of Danny Henny. Only 2 laps remaining. He's kept it on as well. So is he going to use this for the remainder of the laps? I think he might have used it just a touch too early. He may, if he leaves it on that whole 200 seconds, isn't going to last for the end of this race. As you can see Danny Henny get very, very close there. Of course, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. You would expect Danny Henny is going to be patient here, not cause himself any troubles. He's on for a good quarter points and pushing himself up the top of the overall standings and of the Platinum class. As we said at the start, it hasn't been the best start to the series for him, but a great recovery week in Suzuka is being followed up here at Magny-Cours with a win already in the F4 series and a great finish in the top 5 of the F3 race. A lot of curve taken by Danny there, getting very aggressive through that chicane. The gap stays at 0.7 of a second. Can't quite see if Daniel Cook still has his push to pass turned on. That may be why the gap is increasing, but you would expect that Danny Henny is knowledgeable enough to save his push to pass. Yes, indeed, Daniel Cook is just keeping that push to pass on at the moment. We'll see if Danny Henny has enough, and he's probably using it to at the end of the last lap. You can see it's still on a recharge time there, how much he's used at the moment. Of course, he was starting down very middle and back, well, towards the back end of the grid, to be honest, with the reverse grid that we had today. So still a great result for him. Just hopping back a bit for the fight for this last podium position, Carl Power and James Gill. Carl hasn't been able to drop James Gill after overtaking him. As there's a little lock-up, well, big lock-up there from Carl Power. Big lock up there as James Gill has got all over the back of Carl there. As we go on board through this chicane, Carl Power, you can see the rear light flashing there, but he's got push to pass turned on. He needs it as he's lost a lot of time with that lock up. He goes defensive into the chicane, into the hairpin, but that's going to leave him vulnerable to James Gill here as they head into the last hairpin and then the subsequent chicane. James Gill doesn't have his push to pass turned on yet. Luke Power, who is sitting fastest lap after fastest lap, is ready to pounce on these two fighting. If they go side by side, we have 1 lap remaining. Danny Henny, 0.7 behind the leader, that is Daniel Cook. Does he have any push to pass remaining? Banners being lapped, moves out of the way. You would think, but this is Danny Henny's kind of last chance. It does seem to be that Daniel Cook still has a little bit of push to pass remaining, and this may be essential for him. You can see the red roll hoop now into the last 20 seconds of push to pass, but you can see Danny Henny really, a big snap from Danny Henny there with push to pass turned on, just gets a little bit too happy on the throttle, and that could be the moment that has thrown away this potential win for Danny Henny. And what Daniel Cook needed is he's 1.5 seconds behind Daniel Cook with only half a lap remaining. It was a great save from Danny Henny. That is the risk with this Super Formula car, with that extra power that is provided. But he's still gaining here. He's still, oh no, apologies, that is Jose, that is the lap car of Jose, not Daniel Cook, as Jose moves out of the way, and Daniel Cook, the silver class driver, is gonna win this race round the hairpin through the chicane for one last time, and Daniel Cook is your winner of the Super Formula race this evening. Danny Henny in P2, Carl Power holds off the charging James Gill in P4, in P3, and James Gill P4. Luke Power setting fastest lap after fastest lap in P5. Sean Bennett finished in P6 with Tero in P7. Alex Smith after that spin manages to recover to P8. Tim Ellis P9, and Snortland rounds off your top 10 in P10 there. But what a drive from Daniel Cook. It was a great drive from the silver class driver. Let's go grab him for a chat. Daniel Cook, what a drive. How does that feel winning the Super Formula race this evening, buddy?
Hello everyone. Oh, amazing. Stressful, relieved. Oh, I'm glad I did it. It's so hard in these cars. I was like, any second I could spin it and lose it and choke, but no, I did it. Amazing.
Very well commanded performance, especially with Danny Henny chasing you down, of all people.
Oh my god, when he got into second and his lap, it was a second faster than what I was lapping. It was like, it's over. But no, managed to keep on.
You strategically held on to your push to pass and you used it at the end, which kept you in a nice safe distance from him. So well done, buddy. Relish it. Winner of the Super Formula race this evening.
Fantastic. Cheers, guys.
What an end to, again, another race this evening. Every single race has ended with a close finish, and that's exactly what we want and exactly what we get. from the Missed Apex Championship. So here's the final standings. Daniel Cook in P1, as we just spoke to there in the silver class. A great haul of points from him that will thrust him up the silver class standings. Danny Henney in P2, a great win from him regardless, starting in the reverse grid further down the pack. Carl Powell also in P3, rounding off the podium positions. James Gill, a solid performance from him overall this evening in P4 Super Formula. Luke Power in P5, a great result for him. Terry Titus in P6, your gold class leader there, after Alex Smith in P8 lost control of the car in the second to last hairpin. Sean Bennett in 7th there, the second class finisher. Tim Ennis in 9th. All top 10 finishes for Tim this evening. Daniel Snortland rounds off your top 10 with Rich Malden in 11th. Stephen Williams, after getting caught up at the start of the race there in P12. Colin Ward 13th, Andrew Sexton 14th, Mark Greenhow, a good recovery from him considering that incident in the hairpin with Alex Dobertsberger in 15th, Spanners in 16th, Nick Alexander 17th, Steve Rubins in 18th, and rounding off the last positions is John Cox in 19th, Alexandros in 20th, Alex Dobertsberger in 21st, Trumpets 22nd, Jose 23rd, Mike Stoner 24th, and Frick in 25th. And that, this evening, guys, is the end of round 4 at Magny-Cours of the Missed Apex Championship. What a night it has been. Once again, it's been an absolute pleasure to commentate on this series. The F4 race was eventful all the way down to the last lap. The same with the F3 car and the Super Formula. We head to a new circuit for round 5, yet to be announced, but I'm sure I'll be back commentating for you all. Have a lovely evening, everyone, and we'll see you soon.